That would be
Happy to help.
I'm ready to
And-
roll, but I just need to get the license to do this. I'm already networking, but
Well, you
kind
gotta
of-
be a little careful on networking in advance.
yeah,
but,
I can't
you know,
do
yeah.
anything because I don't have the license, so I have to turn it over to somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, technically, we can't even say that we are going to be real estate agents. We would like your business in the future. Like, you can't even
You can tell
say
people what
that.
you're studying. You can tell people what you're
That's-
doing in your life.
Yeah, but
you
you
could tell
can't like
people,
be like,
"Hey,
hey, I
hey,
know
I'm in
you're
real
gonna buy a
estate school."
house soon. Can you wait for me?
No, you
know,
can't
like-
say that.
No, I
That's
just turned
soliciting
over-
business.
Yeah.
It's
over
different.
at
It's
that point.
different. It's different to say, hey, friends, I'm in real estate school and here's what I learned today. I didn't know this, blah, blah, blah. But you don't say, oh, and when I get my license, use me. You don't say that.
Yeah.
But you can tell them what you're doing. I mean, it's kind of like, tonight my, sweetheart and I went out for dinner and we had a steak and whatever. I mean, that's what people do on YouTube all the time, so, hey, I'm in real estate school. And I learned this, but don't say, hey, and when I get licensed, use me. Just don't say that.
I just wish that it could be like somebody sitting there and me talking to them to take the test, because I can have a conversation about it and tell you I know.
Yeah. And I wish I could
know
go
it.
with you to the exam too,
Yeah,
but it's not going to happen.
Like, I know it inside and out, but I sit in front of the screen and I try to take these practice exams and I'm just like, where did
gonna be
stuff
okay.
go?
This is a multiple choice exam. And you have to get a C- on a multiple choice test. The right answer is there. You don't have to know it. You just have to recognize it. You have to pick it out of a lineup of 4.
So I was just in doing some of the exam and I just want to show you this. So I do the multiple choice questions and I answer it and it's like B or A. And so all the ones I write or like is the right one. But if I was to be doing a test, it would be like, that's just a mute point. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it too is knowing the vocabulary. I mean, I'm just telling you guys. I mean, like tonight we're talking about real property. You've got all these crazy terms that you never use in life, like severance and accession and alloidial and riparian and if you don't know the language, you're up the creek. So study the terms. That's a big part of it. There's over 400 terms you need to know, many of which are not used in any other context but the stupid real estate exam. And when you get into business, you don't even use them that much.
And
But
if you're
you've
up
gotta
the
know
creek,
them.
it's riparian.
What?
And up the creek would be riparian rights.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Literal rights has an L.
For
Literal.
lake
That's for L for lake.
and riparian R for river.
R for river. Yeah, you've got it. The little tricks like that can help.
Well, of course, Michael has it. He's a real estate agent.
It's true. I'm taking my test on Thursday from a broker. So hopefully.
That's nice.
Although
I
I've
literally
never
took
done a
my-
test.
Yeah,
I've
but you'll
never-
have it too. You'll have it too.
Oh, absolutely.
But we're willing to help, and if we want to do some Zooms and stuff, that'd be fine. If you want to get together, I'm not. We could do a little of that if we really need to.
That would be awesome.
I'd be glad to go to Bountiful and meet at the office. Whatever.
Yeah.
I took my BESA exam last week and missed it by 1 question. So I take it again tomorrow. I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. 1 question.
Yeah, that's a heartache. That's a heartache. I want you prepared to be prepared about 80%. Well, guys, we're getting a little bit a late start. Let's talk about real property. Is that okay?
Mhm.
Okay, and so we have a system of ownership. It's called alloidial. Alloidial is the system that allows for it's a political economic system that allows for private ownership of real property. Without the alloidial system, you could have a socialist system, you could have a communist system, but we're the alloidial system, and it's capitalism. Capitalism is a alloidial system. When you own real estate, you own a lot of other things than just the dirt. Okay, you own the subsurface rights in many instances, unless they've been already sold off or separated somehow. And these rights are appurtenant. You own everything that's attached to the land, appurtenant to the land. You own everything that's under the land. You even own the airspace above the land. Now, there's reasonable limits to that. I mean, if Delta Airlines is flying over your property, they don't have to throw out a quarter, but you do have airspace rights, you have view rights, and whatnot. Mineral rights, water rights are also considered real property rights. So mineral rights, water rights, air rights are all real property rights as well. Okay. In the state of Utah, water rights are a little bit different. You're going to have to put a little bit work in on that. I mean, and theoretically, you do own a water right, but the real truth is all water rights are really owned by the state of Utah, and you could actually lose your water rights if you don't use them. Now real property has physical characteristics. That's a glare of my glasses. It has physical characteristics. Like it's immobile. You can't move it around. In fact, one of the main distinctions between real property and personal property is movable. Pick up a table, you can move it around. That's personal property. But you can't pick up your house. It's on a foundation. That's real property. Okay. Now, sometimes people say real property. Sometimes people say personal property. But the big difference is that personal property is movable, and it's also indestructible. Now, I know, that a house can burn down. I had dear friends up in Wyoming a couple of days ago that his business burnt down. It's very sad. But he still has the dirt, and so I understand that the improvements can be destroyed, but you still own the real property underneath it. So it's sad, but he'll just have to rebuild, and he'll hope, he had some insurance, and that'll help him some. But a lot of people interchange the terms real property and real estate, and that's okay. But technically, real property refers to other things than just the dirt. It's the intangible rights that are attached to that. And we'll really get into a different class. Your right to secure a loan against it, or your right to transfer it or to lease it out. That's a real property right. But real property is the dirt and the improvements to that. So physical characteristic, it's immobile. Okay. It's indestructible. And one more thing, it's non-homogenic. Non-homogenic means that no two parcels are the same. Now, if you're driving, across the desert somewhere, it all pretty much looks the same. If you're driving to Reno or something, it all looks pretty much the same. But it's not. Just by its physical location, it's different. So it's indestructible, right? It's immobile, and it's non-homogenic. No two parcels are exactly the same, even if it's just a difference in where they're located. Now, real property also has economic characteristics. Scarcity is one. Now, economic characteristics can be influenced and changed by man. A man can come in and do things, or a woman, can come in and do things to change it, like scarcity. Now, Will Rogers says buy real estate, they're not making anymore. That's really true. But sometimes we create scarcity through zoning laws, for example. The city or the county comes out and says, okay, no more commercial property. We have enough, to last us for the next 10, 15 years. So we're not going to rezone anything from agricultural or residential to commercial. Well, that's an emotional, that's not emotional. It's an economic way of economic characteristic called scarcity, but it can be, since it can be influenced by man, it's an economic characteristics. Another thing about real property is improvements, like building a house or putting a road in. There's a lot of land out there, but it has no water, no sewer, no electric, no gas. You bring those improvements into a property, and you can change the nature of that property significantly. And of course, location can affect the value. Now, the old real estate rules: location, location, location. And people's attitude about location can be quite effective as well. A lot of cities have, north side's better than east side, or south side, or whatever. There's attitudes about properties in different areas. So physical characteristics, once again, immobile, indestructible, non-homogenic. Economic characteristic, you could have scarcity, definitely influenced by man. Improvements influenced by man, or the location or location preference. There's a special word called situs, which means location preference. So if people say, well, west side's better than east side, or east side's better than west side, that what they're saying is situs. Okay. And that sounds like site. So you should be able to get that. When people have property, and you have neighbors, and the neighbors are digging a huge hole, you should be able to have a reasonable expectation that your property won't fall into that hole. And so in other words, even though it's not quite on your property, but they're digging right up to the property line, you have a right of what's called lateral support. Okay. All right. So if you have real property, sometimes you run into a term called severance. Severance means well, like a tree would be the best example. If you have a tree in your front yard, that's part of the real property, but you can cut that tree down. You can sever it from the real property. The opposite of severance is a word called accession. You can add to your real property by accession, or putting something with it. Now, personal property has a definition that helps you understand real property. Personal property, its main characteristic is that anything that's not real is personal. Okay. And personal property is movable. You can move it from one place to another, like the table I said a moment ago. And it's typically considered more temporary, or depreciating or deteriorating, where real property is considered a little bit more permanent. And we transfer real property with deeds, and we transfer primarily, and we transfer personal property with something called a bill of sale. Okay. Now, there's a term you're going to run into. You need to know this one's called fixtures, and I think of plumbing fixtures. A plumbing fixture is something that you attach to a house, and so if it's a new toilet, or you put in a new basin, or wash basin, or whatever you might do, or a new tub in your bathroom, that was something that was movable. It was personal property, but by way of attachment, it became part of the real property. So if you think of a toilet that you picked up at Home Depot to replace one that wasn't working that well, you brought it home, throw away the old one, put the new one in place. It was personal until it got attached, and then it became part of the real property. When people buy that house, they expect to get the toilet. So fixtures are always, always, always real property. That's a big wake-up item for the test. Fixtures are always, always, always what? Say
fixtures until they're not, when it's a business fixture.
Yes, a business fixture has a special name called a trade fixture, trade or business. Your dentist's chair that, he leans back and he works and drills on you with when you're in it. You expect that to be attached to the floor, but that's a trade fixture. The X-ray machine, that's a trade fixture. And even though they're attached, they can be taken because it's used in a trade or business. In a school like Dan's, in a physical location, a VCR type projector or whatever mounted on the ceiling, and the screen that comes down out of the ceiling, those are trade fixtures because you use them in your trade or business. But a fixture goes with the property, but trade fixtures are always, always, always personal property, and can be taken, when that property is sold. Okay. Okay, another term you're going to see is implements. Implements are annual crops grown in the year of sale. And to help you understand that a little better, if you're looking at a cherry tree or cherry orchard, the trees in the orchard are real property, but that year's crop of cherries is called an implement. Implements always remain personal property, and they need to be addressed in real estate transactions. Now, who is probably the best buyer for a 20-acre cherry orchard? Who do you
cherry
think?
Farmer?
Not a new cherry farmer.
An investor.
Ivory Homes, a home builder, especially if it's in the middle of Orem or something. Chances are you're going to get a developer. It's going to want to come in and buy that, chop it up into lots and build houses on it. Right. Well, what about the trees? the farmer that's selling that property to a developer, okay, developer wants to get his caterpillar in there and start knocking things down and start grading the property and getting ready to start developing it. But if you didn't address those cherries, and they haven't been harvested yet, it's another month away from harvest. Contractor can't start developing that property until that crop is harvested. Now that's why you address implements and cherries. I mean, there's one crop a year, and you can work around that, but you do address it in your purchase agreement. But what about an alfalfa field? I mean, you might get 4 cuttings, and so that's going to be tied up all summer unless you address that in the purchase agreement, because the common law is that the implements always remain the property of the seller, the farmer, in commercial operations. Now, I'm not talking about a extensive garden in the back of a house. You don't sell your house, then the former owners show up and say, oh, that's just us, we're come to get some tomatoes. I mean, no, that's not an implement, it's a commercial crop. Okay, so those are some of the things I wanted to talk about by way of introduction. But what I want to stress there is that there's just a lot of these terms, so you need to know them, guys. And probably one of the best ways to know them is to go to rickroller.com and download the Quizlet program. There's a password. It's called Limitless Agent. And Dan just gave you a link to that, and you can have it for free, guys. It's got about 400 terms. Use the flashcards. There's other games. There's Hangman, and there's other things that you can play. But just the flashcards is good enough, because the type of exam you're preparing for, like I've already mentioned, is a recognition exam. And you don't need to know it. You just need to recognize it in a lineup. Okay. And you're welcome to have that. And it's my gift to you guys. Please take advantage of that. If you have any issues, give me a call, 801-556-8000. But you need to get something like that. There's a lot of them out there on Quizlet. There's a lot of real estate educators that have made them. But mine is very test oriented. So in other words, those terms are ones you're going to need.
Limitless Agent, all lowercase.
Yeah. That's the password. Okay. So, and you can just, you don't have to buy anything or buy Quizlet. It's just a downloadable little program, and you need that password. Okay. Dan, let's look at some slides. Dan's our producer tonight, and we have some questions. Dan, you there? Okay. Okay, here we go. All righty. Elises, which of the following is it? Drum roll. Personal property.
Personal property.
Yeah, that's warm and fuzzy. That's the correct answer. Is it real property? Obviously not. Is it? Why? Is it tangible?
No.
Or intangible? It's intangible. It's a right to use something. Okay. It's really a right to use, or it's a personal property right. You could sell your lease. You could do, that lease might let you do subletting. You might have some other uses for that lease, but it's not real property. It's a personal property right. And an easement is part of the real estate. And then of course, leases aren't permanent. So of that, A is of course the best answer. That's the correct answer. Okay. And that's going to bear a striking similarity to something you might see in your future. Some of you even this Thursday. Okay. Next question, please. Okay. Property has a lake. It's a large lake, and it's on one side, and there's a small stream that's running into the lake and forms another side of the property. So which is true? A, the lakefront is governed by riparian rights. The stream is governed by littoral rights. And that's not true. That's exactly opposite. Remember, a few moments ago, one of the our broker student, now thank you very much, said that a lake has an L. So if you have a choice between littoral, which is L, literal rights, which the answer is D, by the way, if you want to look at that.
Yeah.
That's lake and littoral go together. If it's a stream or a river, then you look at R for riparian. Okay. The lake and stream together are not governed by riparian law. The lake is governed by littoral, and the riparian is governed by riparian rights. Okay. And the lakefront's governed. Yeah. So anyway, the correct answer is D. Okay. And that is an excellent example of how they're trying to trick you up. You either know the terms or you don't. Now, I mean, come on. I mean, for those of you that are really just breathe, you know, if you're this test phobic, I understand. I've worked with students a lot that have these problems, and you just have to breathe and try to relax. But remember, no question is worth more than another. So, you know, if it's killing you, you can either skip it or mark it for mark it and then mark it for review, and then it'll come back later. But, you know, this question, if it was killing you, just skip it, you know, and the program will bring it back to you. You can enjoy it later, you know, after you've answered all the easy ones. Okay.
Yeah,
So
answer all the questions you know. Go back to the ones you have problems with later.
yeah, the test will bring it back to you. Or if you do answer it, you could mark it for review so you can kind of relive it. You know, I don't change answers on these tests because you're going to lose more than you gain. Usually your first impression is correct. But if you go back and you're looking it over again and you say, oh my goodness, I see my mistake. I misread that question, you know, and the correct answer is this one. Or you had another question in the test that reminded you of the correct answer to that former question. You know, and that happens all the time. So, you know, just some test taking tips, but just breathe, relax. You know, our student, a young lady that missed it by 1 point, you know, get back in there and get it the second time. Okay. I had a lady that happened to her. She passed the national, but missed the state because she didn't give herself enough time. You've got 4 hours to do this exam. It's more than enough time, but I don't know, she just took too much time is what she did. She like would read the question real, you know, 3 or 4 times. I suggest reading the question twice and then looking at the answers, give it your best shot, and then mark it and move on. Okay. If it's one you know, you're drawing a complete blank. I've never seen this before. Please understand that you're going to get more than 80 questions on the national, okay, and 40 on the state, and so you might have 43 on the state and 40, you know, 80, 84 or 5 on the national. So those extra questions are testing the test question, okay? So you can mark whatever you want. It's not going to count against you or count for you either way. The problem is they don't tell you which ones are the test, you know, they're testing the test question. So if you run across a question from hell and you know, I've never seen this before, what the heck? You know, it's probably a test question, okay? Because they have to test it for a while to make sure it's a fair question, and then they put it in the database. But we haven't, you know, received word of that yet, so it's not necessarily in our study material. And they're changing laws all the time as well, too. So, you know, Dan's got a big job of keeping his material updated, which he does an excellent job of that, better than any other school in the state of Utah that I know of.
I wish I would have went with this school in the first place.
Yeah, we do too, but that's okay. You know, I mean, we're still willing to help you. Okay, let's go to the next question. All right. Hey, after you pass the exam and you're out there selling real estate, you know, that's what it's all about. It's not this test nonsense, you know. And then of course you want to come back later, you know, and get your broker's test. So when it's time for do your brokers, come back and see us again. Okay. A property A has an easement over the property B, which allows them access to a waterway. So what is true? A, property B is the tenement appurtenant.
No.
Nope. Property A is the tenement appurtenant.
No.
Nope. Property B is the dominant tenement.
No.
See, dominant is the one that's benefiting. Subservient tenement is the one that is being disadvantaged. I mean, people driving across your property, you get to the water. So property A, it says right up in the question stem, has an easement over property B. So the correct answer is D. Property A is a dominant tenement. And these easements do pass with the property. Okay. Okay, questions at this point? Anybody have?
How
Go ahead.
similar is agent to broker? I mean, I know the percentage is higher, a few extra questions, but having done both. do you
Well,
think-
the passing rate for agents was pretty abysmal here until, more people started coming to our school. We had 1 month where we had 100% passing rate, didn't we, Dan?
but
It's
there was one,
Yeah, we did.
that was
Yeah,
in
it's
April when
fantastic.
one person took the test.
No.
Actually, we had another month just like that. I'll tell you that story
Our
later.
key.
Yeah, we've had other months.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, the statewide, before we started doing some stuff at our school and doing more outreach, was really sad. It was like 60% or something, 65 on, where in the past we've always had in our state about a 78% pass rate or thereabouts. Brokers in recent history has been 50-50. 50 pass, 50 fail. So, Michael, when you get in there, don't let real life screw you up. Don't say, "Oh, I just had a deal like 4 months ago where
Sure.
we did it this way."
Yeah.
Read the question carefully and answer it the way they want you to answer it, not the way that sometimes.
Not the way that I actually do things.
Yeah.
Like I have not had a single deal with riparian or riparian rights, but
Yeah, me either. I mean, not
I did
really.
amazing on the test part. The part that I didn't do good on and I should have studied more was the math portion, because there was a lot of math portion on my broker exam. And I'm like, I should have studied it more, but I had talked to an agent that had just took the test. And I'm like, I should have compared an agent to a broker anyway. But so I was like, oh, I don't need to study the math that much. And I wish
Math's important. You need to know the math, particularly on the broker's test, guys. I mean, you're going to have to do prorations. I mean, the math is much more involved in a broker's exam than it is on sales agent exam.
that's good to know. That's one I've not studied the math as much because I thought.
Oh my gosh, Michael, come on.
Okay, because there was like one question on my agent test when I took it a few years ago. Felt like
Usually there's 6 to 8 questions on the agent exam for math.
I felt like the broker exam was a lot different than the agent exam. To me, it's like the broker is like putting you in a situation.
Yes.
Versus the sales agent is.
I like the broker's exam because they give you a scenario, then I'll ask a couple of questions about that scenario. What does this mean? What does that mean? How would you do this? How would you do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the more scenario they give you, the more they give away.
sure.
Yeah, but they're tricky. I'm just telling you, they're tricky. Look, if you had a business and there's only a certain number of people that are going to walk into your business, wouldn't you want them to come back 2 or 3 or 4 times?
Sure.
Yeah, man, that's the only way you're going to increase profitability. There's only so many people are going to take the exam. So you want to increase the profitability. You want to sneak in some snarky, stupid questions so they flunk and they have to come back and take it again. Okay. So you got to know your stuff, but guys, you're going to be okay.
I found the agent test to be really easy when I took it several years ago, but I was just curious how broker was going to be. I've studied more for broker than I did for sales agent, but
Yeah, but we know that you're an outstanding guy. I mean, come on.
Living life on the beach.
I know
Yeah.
you're living on the beach. I mean,
Life's
hey,
the
can't get
beach.
much better than that.
yes, the
Okay,
beach in
next
St.
question,
George.
please. Next question, please. All righty. Okay. In what circumstance might an owner be granted an easement by prescription? Okay.
B.
Now, A says the neighborhood property owner gives them permission. Easement by prescription means there's no degree of consent from the person you're getting the easement from. So A can't be right. B, the driveway pavement encroaches on a neighboring property and it goes untested for a certain amount of time. That answer is warm and fuzzy. I'd hang on to that one for a minute because it's the correct answer. C, the owner sells the property to a new owner within 5 years of purchase. 5 years has nothing to do with anything. Easement by prescription in our state is much longer than that. Okay, and a tenant remains in the property without paying rent for 5 years.
The adverse possession.
Yeah, adverse possession gives you ownership. Easement by prescription just gives you the right to use it. The rules are very similar, except that if you're going for that adverse possession, you're going for ownership. That's a 7-year period of time. You have to be paying the property taxes. See, that's the kicker. I mean, you look at all these title companies and they're insuring these properties for millions of dollars or $500,000 and whatnot. And After 7 years, if there's a title issue, they go to court and they do a quiet title action. They send their B team lawyers. You know, what do you call a lawyer that graduated last in his class?
Lawyer.
A lawyer. Okay. Because it's not that difficult of a case. They go in and they argue adverse possession. You know, was it this guy's house? Did he have his name on the title, his name on the mailbox? Did he invite people here? They tell him did he hypothecate it? You know, did he get a loan on it? Was he paying the taxes? You know, and was he, you know, handling it as his own? He met the rules, and the gavel's going to come down like this, and it's going to be given to that owner. I mean, they're not going to pay off $500,000. They're going to take it to court, especially if you've been in ownership for over 7 years. Now, and you don't want them to pay you off anyway, because they're only going to pay you what the property was worth when you bought it, 10, 15 years ago. I mean, things have doubled in that amount of time. So do you want $1 million or $500,000 payoff on an old policy? You want them to defend your title, so kind of interesting. So, the 5 years is not an issue of time in our state, really, on this. Okay, the next one, please. Okay, laws that restrict the way private owners can use their property are, guys, Stormy, answer this one for me. Which is it? I'm putting you on the spot.
Zoning law.
Zoning. Perfect. See, you're great. It's not assessments. That has to do with taxes. It's zoning. Zoning laws. Hey, there's a hint. What laws? Okay. Zoning laws. It's not restricted to commercial real estate. Definitely can, regulate commercial real estate, but not restricted. And it's not limited to federal, not state laws. All these laws governing in real estate are state. And there's some federal laws too on the national level on discrimination and things like that, lead-based paint. But, most of the laws that we're studying, of course, are state. Okay, zoning laws. Zoning tells you what you can do with it, and then, anyway. I'm putting a really cool house on the market this week in Provo. It's on the wrong side of town. It's on the west side of the freeway, but it's on the road. It's on center out the road out to the airport. Big property, about 5,600 square feet and half acre. Huge house, great bedrooms. And on the side of the house, it has one side of the house. It has this 600 square foot room with an exterior entrance. I mean, it's just made perfect for someone that wants a place to live. They can even rent out the basement as a separate apartment and have your business there. It could be a nail salon, could be a locksmith, could be a bookkeeper, could be all kinds of people. And it's contiguous with commercial property. So you should have no problem getting a conditional use permit, which this ties back to the zoning. It's not zoned for commercial, but it's right on the cusp of commercial and has a circular driveway off the street and plenty of off-street parking. So if you want to be a locksmith or, bookkeeper or a nail salon or, any types of, human services type companies, you can probably get a conditional use permit on that property. I think it's going to be a fun sale. It's in very poor shape, but that's okay. You have to remodel it anyway. Okay. Other questions that you guys might have tonight? Okay. Dan, what's your best 2 tips or 3 tips for taking the test?
We've talked about some of them already. The one is when you go in, you make sure you read the question first so that you know what it's asking before you look at any of the answers. And then tip number 2 is that you don't second guess yourself. Yeah. Because, and this is psychology, but 90% of the time, if you go back and change your answer, the first one was right. And so read the question well first, and then select your best answer, and then move on. Unless you see something or have a real awakening that says that the other answer is right, then go ahead and change it. But most of the time, if you're not sure, go with your gut. Let your first answer stay.
First impressions are usually right.
Yeah.
Guys, I have one if it's okay. So we're talking about literal rights and riparian rights, and I'm sure I can look back in my book, but there's the one about whether it's navigable or not, and the high water mark or the middle of the stream and stuff.
there's only 2 water bodies in our state that are navigable. I guess you could say Bear Lake may kind of does recreational use, but really it has to be a commercial use. And one of them is Great Salt Lake. They do a lot
Okay.
of mineral mining and whatnot into Great Salt Lake. And there's been some use. There used to be a boat that ran around Utah Lake. So those 2 lakes are the only 2 water bodies that are navigable. They don't consider whitewater rafting commercial use, although it kind of is, but they don't classify it that way.
Okay.
The difference is that if it's not navigable, you own to the center of it.
Okay.
If it the center of that water body. If it is navigable, you only own to the edge. So the only 2, and that's the main difference.
I can't remember. I'm like, I can look it back up, but I'm on with you. I might as well ask you.
Yeah. The main difference is do you own to the center or do you own to the water, the shoreline on the river?
Exactly. So if it's navigable, it's the center. If it's not, it's the water's edge.
Right. I had a friend who has a property in Lehigh. It wasn't quite big enough to put a commercial building on it that he wanted to put on it, but there's a river right there. I forget what is it. That's Jordan. It's Jordan River. And I went into planning and zoning with him. I said, well, gentlemen, you're only looking at the water to the edge. He actually owns to the middle of the Jordan River. And they looked at me for a minute and said, oh, you're right. So he had enough land to build what he wanted to build. They had turned him down before. And I said, no, we're going to go back in there and beat him up. So then we did, and he got it. Yeah, that was really cool for him. He took me to Wendy's. Okay, well, anyway, Michael has left the beach and he's now watching the Aurora Borealis. It's fun. He's up in the northern hinterlands now. That guy gets it. Yeah, the Northern Lights. He's man, that guy gets around. Okay, my best tips for the test are one starts the night before. Guys, so for those of you who are going in pretty quick or whenever you're going in, get all your keys, get your ID, anything you need to get into that test. Dan, they don't have to take a document with them anymore. They're registered previously, right?
They still need to take the document with them to take the test.
Okay, so you got to have that pass that gets you in to take the test that the school issues to you. Stormy, in your case, it'll be the guys out of South Dakota, but make sure you have that. And then, your ID, and I'd take 2 forms of ID. What the heck, and take all this and anything you need for the exam, and you stack it up on your nightstand or your dresser, and you put your keys on top. I can't tell you how many people couldn't find their keys to get to the exam. I had one lady had to run over to her neighbor's and borrow a neighbor's car. I mean, imagine how frazzled she was by the time she got there. Okay. So don't put yourself in that kind of a situation where you're freaked out, So the night before, gather everything, put it in a pile right there, double check it, got everything I need, got a mask, got the keys, got my entrance slip, got everything I need. Okay. And then herbal supplements to make you think better, whatever you want to take. Okay. And then get to the test area. Now they say don't get here too early, but get to this test area at least 15 minutes early. I think you can get there actually a little early. I took the Idaho exam up in North Salt Lake, and I took the Colorado exam. Where did I take that? I don't know, somewhere here in Utah. I was able to take both the exams here for those 2 states recently, and I got there early. The one for Idaho, I got there way early, and there weren't any cars there, so I just walked in and said, guys, I'm awfully early, but I'm a half hour early. Oh, come on in. The other people, I guess, are late, so and they went ahead and took me in early. So, but my point is, don't rush yourself, and don't oh gosh, it's hard to find parking. I mean, most of these places have plenty of parking and everything, but get there early and get ready the night before. Get some sleep. When I took my broker's exam for the first time in Colorado, Michael, and I was busy. Okay. I mean, my first year I did 59 transactions. My second year I did 100, You know, I was busy little guy, you know, out there. And so when I went to take my broker's exam, I had to study. You know, I stood up. I mean, I stayed up all night long cramming for that stupid test. Dumb. I went in and passed it. I had to keep waking myself up. I passed it, but you know, then went back to the hotel and crashed the rest of the day. Anyway, you know, we had to take it in Denver. So, and I didn't live in Denver, but guys, don't do that. You know, don't cram the whole night before. Okay. Just take it easy. Okay. See, there's one more question. Some foods make you more energetic, and, you know, like pastas and things are good to eat the night before. You know, they give you more calories or carbohydrates or whatever it is, you know, for those of you that know more about nutrition than I do. Eat that. Don't eat the stuff that's gonna, you know, you're not gonna be very much of a brainiac the next day. But all those things will help you. And then when you get there, just breathe. You know, I mean, you have plenty of time if you manage your time. One of the things I love about the computerized test is the clock on it is a countdown clock. So it tells you how much time you have left. That's much more important. I mean, it's one less math problem you have to do. Okay, I've done this much time. I've given I think that's 4 hours. I mean, what do I have left? It's a countdown clock. You know, so pay attention to that so that you know. I mean, I like to see it up there, so I kind of can judge. Many of the questions that you will see, you'll be able to answer within like 35 seconds. You know, you'll read the question, you'll read it again, glance down at the answer. Oh, there it is. Grab it. Don't read. You know, just grab it and then go to the next question, and just move through the exam. If something takes more time, or it's a killer question, or the question from hell, just skip it. It'll come back up later. It'll bring it back up automatically, or go ahead and take your guess. And I think it might be this, and then mark it for review. Then you'll come back, you'll do the ones marked for review, and the other ones you skipped, and then you're done. Okay. I don't like the fact that they want you to use the calculator on the computer, but they do. I mean, you can ask them for another calculator, and if they have one, they'll give it to you. I mean, they won't let you
bring one, can't you?
They won't let you take them in anymore. They're afraid.
Really?
Yeah, they're afraid you have crib notes hidden on them somewhere.
Yeah, so I read that you can take a solar powered one, but nothing that has a battery container.
They had one there for me.
They're not going to let you take your personal calculator in.
That's good to know. They did in the sales agent test when I took it.
Yeah, they did. Ago. Yeah, they've always done it, but they're kind of. I mean, I guess someone had a crib sheet taped to the back or hidden inside the battery flap or something. I don't know. You know,
I had a calculator to bring with me, so I'm glad to know that.
Yeah.
Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah, and it'll be a simple calculator. You don't need to have a real fancy, HP 12C or anything like that. I don't know what my calculator is. Okay, had in my pocket earlier. You don't need to have that. Just a normal, simple calculator. Okay. Now, after you've passed the test, just go celebrate. This is a big deal. I mean, especially the first time, and getting your broker's license is a big deal. And it's keep in touch with us, Michael, because they're changing a lot of the broker rules even as we speak. There's some new changes coming down this month. There's some new laws that the governor will probably sign that will come into effect in May. And a lot of them have to do with safe harbor rules, where if your agents are screwing up all the time and you're not doing these things, then that's going to bite you too. But if you're doing these things, they have a list, this, and this, then if your agent screws up, it won't come back to haunt you, because you are giving them adequate supervision. You are giving them proper training. You did have a policy and procedures manual. You did everything you're supposed to do, and you were in compliance. So you qualify for what they call a safe harbor. But Dan and I have been talking about this. Yeah, we put that. The commissioners have been pushing, and look, okay, my principal broker is the chairman of the real estate commission. Okay, his name's Rick Southwick, and you know, why do all of a sudden are we having these rules and these new rules and stuff put into place? Well, because they think a lot of the brokers out there are schmucks and need to be disciplined. Well, how are they going to discipline when the rules are so vague? So they made the rules real exacting. And if you have this, and that, you're going to be okay. But if you're missing these two, they're going to get you. So, you know, don't think, oh, this is really great. They're coming out with these new rules. Well, they're coming out with the rules, so they're defining your job. And now with the job defined, they can do it. So Dan and I are putting together some really great stuff for brokers that will make sure you stay in compliance. And if you have an agent that's screwed up, and the agent says, well, Michael didn't teach me that, you know, you'll be able to present video evidence that shows that you did do that from a third party who's disinterested. You know, Dan could show up and say, oh yeah, and according to our records, this agent took this class, and we can show you the exact class and exactly what they were taught. So if they're telling you, oh no, I was never taught that, they're, you know, sorry, they were taught it. They just chose not to do it, or they're just stupid. You know, so
maybe both.
Don't hire those kind of agents. If you do, get rid of them quick. Send them somewhere else, your best competitor. Okay, other questions, please. About any topic, doesn't matter.
I have one for you, Rick.
Okay.
So on my test, it was talking about a gentleman going to settlement, and he had a child support lien against him. I can't remember exactly how it was worded, but it said something about if he was a seller, would he be able to close, and could they hold that against him? And then the next question was about him being a buyer. So I'm like, is it the same answer that all liens have to be paid for prior? That was one of those that I'm like, I came home and I was like, what in the world?
Okay, if you're a buyer and you have a judgment against you, and that's how these, you know, I mean, if you're not paying your child support, it's going to show up as a judgment eventually, or it's an ongoing obligation that you're in arrears. They get the same status as a judgment. What happens is any judgment, a person, see what happens when you're buying a property. The seller signs a deed and he gives it to the buyer. The property is then put in the buyer's name. And then the buyer signs a loan document, you know, and that is put against the property. And in the settlement, old loans or other problems with the property are all paid off. And the title insurance company insures to that new lender that they are in first position. Now, the problem is if you're a buyer and you have, you know, IRS problems, child support problems, you know, other judgments from people that have taken you to court and obtained a judgment against you. What will happen is this instant that property is deeded into your name, that judgment slaps onto the property, and then the loan is put against the property. So the first mortgage for the buyer is actually second to that judgment. It is junior to that judgment or that problem. And that's why, you know, you're not getting a loan. You know, they're going to turn you down. When they find out that you have those types of problems, they'll make you take care of them before you actually, you know, are given the right to loan. Now, on the seller side, that judgment is against the property. And like any other lien, that has to be settled out again, you know, taken off the property. So that could be taken off the proceeds of the sale. Great question. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was one of those that had me fumbled. So.
Well, yeah, it's, you know, but once you've been to dozens and dozens of settlements, you'll know it better. But you've got to have the license to do those, you know, so that's why you should ask. Thank you. Appreciate you bringing that up. We have a settlement class that gets into all that stuff. Other questions? That was great.
I have something to say, and it's not necessarily a question, but it's kind of more for Dan. I was taking one of the practice exams on the course study on the, let me see, let me go back into it. So I am in the exam prep pass, and it's G8-200, and there's a practice exam in there that you can like print out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
On this practice exam, I noticed a mistake and I just wanted to bring it to your attention in case you want to fix
Sure.
it. Number 11, it says S is the seller who put their house up for sale. C is the customer who is buying the seller's house, blah, 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 blah. And the answer to that question is A, S. But when you go down into the answers, it says practice exam answers. In the practice exam answers, it says the answer is B, even though it should be A.
Okay. I'll take a look at that. We'll see what we can fix on there.
Sorry, I just wanted to.
No, that's great. Appreciate that.
Well, I
Okay.
appreciate you guys.
Oh gosh, I'm glad we all appreciate each other. Okay. That means you got to sell all my listings. Okay. When you see my name on it, you have a responsibility to run out there and sell it.
Yes.
I would much rather, work with another agent on a deal and do it all myself. I don't mind doing it myself. I'll take both sides, but I like working with agents. They do half the work. It's better. Okay, other questions? The market is crazy, guys. It's, you get a listing, it's going to sell. It's fantastic. It's superheated on the seller side. Sellers are getting over list price almost all the time. Multiple offers. It's crazy. So what do you need to do in this market?
Well, I ran into somebody the other day, a friend I used to work with at a restaurant, and he just got his real estate license, and he said it is so hard right now that most of his time is knocking doors to see if people want to sell their house.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What you should do in a market like this is you need to get the listing. Getting the listing, you're going to get a sale.
Yeah.
Working with buyers is great, but the only buyers I really like to work with ever are my sellers who I sold their house out from under them.
Yeah.
They want a new one. Okay. I feel an obligation to those guys, but buyers, guys, in this market, you're going to write 10 offers. It's going to be multiple bids on everyone. My son just made an offer on a house in Oregon, and the guy that got it paid $70,000 over the listing price. He said, "Dad, how are you going to do that?" I says, "Get out of Portland, damn it. Go further west, go further south, or come back to Utah." And then, you got to get out of the metro area, or you're going to pay too much for the house, and then you're going to be sorry, but it's not, there's times to buy and times to sell. But for you and I, if you have 12 listings, you're going to get 12 sales. So it's time to work everything you can to get that listing. Knocking on doors is not a bad thing to do. It works. If you knock on doors, the numbers are, if you talk to 50 people, and I'm not talking about a door and you knock on, no one answers, but you knock on doors and you talk to 50 people, you're going to get someone that is a viable lead that you can follow up with. You may not convince them to list, but because they may have a brother in the business or something, but you're going to find a viable lead for every 50 people you talk to. So talk to lots of people. But really, for a new agent, there's 6 sources of business that's going to give you about 87% of all your commissions your first 2 years. You want to know what they are? Number 1, friends and family. But yet I work with so many agents that are reticent. Well, I don't know if I want to contact my family and my friends. Why? They're the people that love you. I mean, you're crazy if you don't. Okay, friends and family. You need to contact them, and you need to solicit their business. And there's specific ways to do that. Okay. The next one is SOI, your sphere of influence. You were doing something before you got into real estate. I mean, what about former people you used to work with or for, clubs you belong to, church groups, other things that you do, passions you have in life, whatever, sororities you were in. I mean, so go out and work your friends and family, work your sphere of influence. And your sphere of influence is like your spouse's friends and family also, or your daughter's in-laws or your son's in-laws and whatnot. So those are the first 2. Referrals is another one. There's specific ways to get referrals. Referrals are great. You do a good job for someone, you ask them for a referral, or you work a referral in a number of different ways. And that's a real good one. And then we've got for sale by owners, which are great. And we've got expired listings. There's 5 and there's one more. Oh, seller SOI. Your sellers have a sphere of influence as well. Work those. And there's specific ways to work all those, but you should always focus on controlling the property, getting listings. And I've worked with some agents say, oh, I love working with buyers. That's all I want to work with. Okay. You're going to work real hard. You're going to show properties during your daughter's dance recital. Tonight was my wife's birthday. If I'm working with buyers, I'd be out showing buyers, see, buyers don't care what's going on in your life. The only thing that's important to them is that you get them a house, so everything else in your life comes to a screaming halt, and they say, well, because their life, it's critical, they get a place to live. Okay. So sellers, you can work by appointment, right? Now, usually they have jobs. You're not going to be able to work with them probably during the day or whatever. So you can make appointments and go see them. You work them by appointments. You're in and you're out. 45-minute, 30-minute presentation. You get the listing or you don't. You can usually get, when you start, 1 out of 3. When you get better, 2 out of 3. When you get superb, you'll get all 3 of them. Okay, on average. But 2 out of 3 is great. So so you just need to keep making those presentations, getting out there and making it work. If you're getting the message, this is a sales business. Oh my gosh. I thought there was just going to be business. I buy a pretty car, show pretty houses, drive people around. I didn't know it was a sales business. It's a sales business, folks. You got to sell yourself and you got to sell your services. But it's not like other types of sales. It's not like hard sales. You just got to get in front of people. Usually people list with the first agent they talk to, usually. So you've got to get there for the other. If it's door knocking, if it's working these other areas with in different ways, that's what you need to do. Okay. Do we have another couple of questions, Dan?
We do, but we're a little over time. So whatever.
Oh, okay. Let's just do them real quick. If you guys need to go, that's fine. Okay. The edge of a property that's adjacent to the street is called the. Go ahead, throw it up, Dan. The edge of a property that is adjacent to the street is called the
front foot.
Front foot, yeah. And so it's not the setback. That's usually a zoning thing. It's not the circumference. That's a circle, and it's not the deed. It's the front foot. Okay, and the last question is that a homeowner's property taxes have increased. And after reviewing this year's assessment compared to last year's assessment, they find that their property has been assessed higher value than it was the year over last. Well, yeah, that's going to be everybody now. What would the best way to show the municipality, that's on a county level, that their property assessment should be lowered? And the correct answer, it's not show them current mortgage balance. They could care less. It's B, prove that similar properties in the municipality have actually received lower assessments or have sold for lower prices. Showing no improvements, that doesn't make a difference if you did improvement or not. I mean, the market goes up, property values go up. And prove that similar properties are not selling at current economic climate. They don't care. They're only going to look at they draw current values from things that have actually sold, not haven't sold. Okay. Thanks you so much for being here tonight. My phone number again is 801-556-8000. You've got the school's number. I'll call Dan or I. If you guys want to get together, we'll work something out, or we'll do some more Zooms or whatever it's going to take to make you feel comfortable to get through this test. We know it's stressful. We know it's important to you, and we want you to pass the first time. And we're willing to put the time in if you'll make yourself available. Hey, people have helped us, Dan and I, when we got into business. We're returning the favor.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And guys, don't be a stranger. Keep in touch. And oh yeah, if you want a copy of my best-selling book, you're welcome. I'll give you a digital copy or an audio, whichever one you want. It's called, just like my hat, it's called Limitless. If you want a hardback copy, they're getting a little bit more rare, but you know, these gold embossed hard copies are $20. But if you want, I'm giving you the digital and the audio copy for free. So just that's at rickroller.com as well. You're welcome to download that. And you know, this is a business where you got to get your head straight. You know, I mean, everything is business occurs up here, folks. It's people that do well in this business are people that, you know, that aren't constantly beating themselves up. You know, they have confidence. You know, they walk into a home, they establish rapport with the people, they know how to do that, they know what's, I mean, it's the people get the message that you're there to help them. Less lives make money. So, and that's what Limitless is all about. It's about overcoming your self-defeating behaviors. Appreciate you guys. Dan, thank you very much for being the hostess with the mostest when we're getting started here, and all your technical support and having such a fabulous school. We appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Rick. We really appreciate having you and your experience. I think.
Yeah, and we hope you make a whole lot of money this year, because there's a lot of people that want to get into real estate because you know, their jobs kind of evaporated because of COVID. Appreciate you guys. See you around, and don't be strangers. Call me. If you want to know more about how to get going into business, give me a call too. We can certainly talk about that too. Take care.